Counting down. Two and one.
All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Brisbane City Council meeting. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, all council members are present, so roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Davis.
Here.
Councilmember Kern.
Here.
Councilmember Mackin.
Here.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Here.
And Mayor Lenz.
All right, here. Tom, anything to report out from the closed session?
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, it looks like he's not online yet.
Oh, okay, I guess we can circle back with that later. Okay, let's do that. Adoption of tonight's agenda, can I get a first and a second?
Make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. Awards and presentations. Tonight, we are receiving the Brisbane Library Annual Report presentation. And Carrie, why don't you come on up and let us know what's happening at the Brisbane Library.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Lenz, City Council members, and City staff. I'm Carrie Mossing, Brisbane Library Community Library Manager. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm pleased to share the library's annual report for the fiscal year 2024-2025. Let's see. Next slide. First established as a county free library in 1912, the library's Joint Powers Authority was formed in 1999. You can see our service area here, made up of our 11 member cities and the unincorporated areas of the county. Each of our 13 libraries works together to offer countless opportunities for connection and exploration. We curate our offerings to meet the needs and interests of our community to help them thrive. Next slide. This year, we rolled out our new 5-year strategic plan, which grounds us in our shared goals to listen, connect, discover, and engage. As we put our new mission, vision, and goals into action, we know our continued success depends on the insights, contributions, and the voices of the communities we serve. Next slide. As part of our strategic plan, we introduced a new vision and mission to guide our work. Our updated mission: together, we build meaningful connections and inspire lifelong curiosity. Now, I'd like to share how that's coming to life at our libraries. Next slide. The programs and collections at San Mateo County Libraries are well used. You can see our year in numbers here. Beyond the numbers, each of these data points represents the connections, learning, and growth that are happening across our community. Next slide. We strive to deliver services and offer opportunities where our diverse communities feel seen, heard, and valued. Each of our staff brings unique backgrounds and experiences to the library, and this diversity strengthens how we serve through responsive programs, meaningful outreach, and culturally rich collections. Next slide. Our culture of discovery and exploration is reflected on our nearly 250,000 active cardholders. This past year, we saw 2.8 million website visits, more than 40,000 laptop checkouts, 4 million in-library Wi-Fi sessions, and a huge increase here to 23,343 hotspot checkouts, thanks to some additional hotspots added to our collection. We were also proud to welcome 14,272 new cardholders this year. Next slide. At the local level, you can see our numbers continue to grow. Brisbane Library saw over 71,000 library visitors and 90,000 items checked out this past fiscal year. Next slide. We saw more than 17,000 digital downloads this past year on Overdrive, and our program attendance at the library reached nearly $6,000. Sorry, reached nearly 6,000. And in addition to our popular on-site programs, we love to get out into the community. You've likely seen us at the farmers market, Day in the Park, Festival of Lights, and our local schools. Next slide. We create moments for every stage and phase of life to foster growth and curiosity. I'm excited to share some of our greatest accomplishments from last year. Next slide. Our 55+ programs continue to grow, connecting older adults with opportunities to stay active, learn new skills, and build friendships. We create welcoming spaces and provide meaningful experiences where we help older adults find connection and a sense of belonging. Here's a short video highlighting one of our recent 55+ field trips, which have been very popular.
Is there supposed to be sound with this,
I
Gary?
think so.
I'm sorry, Angel, would you check to see if the sound is turned up at your end?
And if the videos aren't working, I can send the links later.
Seems like it's up.
Guess we'll just have to have a silent film.
There's
We're
subtitles.
gonna chalk this up to a technical issue. We did practice this earlier today and it worked fine. So the gremlins are back.
Exactly right.
Yeah. All right. So I'll just send those out a little later. Let's see, next slide. We are helping families spark a love of reading from day one. Through Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, children ages 0 through 5 receive free books every month delivered in the mail to their home. Since launch, thousands of San Mateo County kids have enrolled in this program. Our registration numbers here in Brisbane keep growing, but please do help to spread the word. We're thankful to our partners at the Dollywood Foundation, the Foundation for San Mateo County Libraries, and our generous friends groups who make these offerings possible. Next slide. Together with our partners, we bring the library into the community in fun and unexpected ways. At Library Night with the San Francisco Giants, thousands of fans explored our Makermobile, browsed ebooks, and took home baseball-themed books. And at the San Mateo County Fair, we created a vibrant reading garden where visitors of all ages enjoyed books and activities. Wherever we go, we remind people that the library is within reach. When you watch the video later, you'll see some highlights from Giants Library Night and some familiar faces. Next slide. Our staff are at the heart of everything we do. This year, our library champions leaned into growth and new ideas, turning creativity into even better services for our communities. We celebrate our team, from longtime staff who know our communities deeply to new team members who bring fresh perspectives. And we're thankful for the support of volunteers and friends groups who continuously help us reach even more people across the county. Next slide. Our libraries are community destinations. We provide welcoming spaces to gather, learn, and connect. Through continued upgrades and new spaces, we're always working to make them more comfortable, innovative, and inspiring for everyone in collaboration with you. You'll see a short video showcasing the reopening of our Belmont Library after it received some recent upgrades to support our communities. Next slide. Next slide. Our Brisbane Library celebrated its own wins and progress last year. Our Lunch at the Library initiative saw increased engagement this summer. We were so glad to see new and familiar faces. I'll mention we have some numbers highlighted here. We gave out more than 1,000 nutritious meals, more than 100 multilingual books to help build home libraries. I'll note our 45 engaging educational programs were just the Lunch at the Library programs. In total, last fiscal year, we offered 680 programs at the library. And we brought families on 2 fun and informative field trips.
Cool.
Yeah, it was a good summer. Next slide. We've also seen increased engagement with our one-on-one assistance programs, which include tech tutoring and beginner sewing help. We're happy to offer our community personalized assistance to grow their skills in these areas. Next slide. Thank you to city staff and the council for your collaboration with us and for championing the library. In particular, Councilmember Kern and City Manager Dennis for your work on the JPA Governing Board and Operations Committee. To the Friends of the Brisbane Library for their ongoing support, advocacy, and celebration of library offerings. To library staff for their committed and passionate work. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
All right. Council members, do you have any questions for Carrie? Madison? Terry? Frank, I can see you ready to go, so.
Well done on your presentation, Carrie. We love you, and we're very fortunate to have you at the Brisbane Library. Sitting on the JPA, I've had the opportunity to travel to all 13 libraries. That's easier said than done. When you route that in Google Maps to do the most efficient routing, it's about 127 miles round trip. And so I was able to get to them all. The most beautiful one is Brisbane.
Duh.
Great events. The Giants Night was an amazing success. The traffic that you guys had was really, really terrific. They literally had a cart of all baseball-themed books that they were just handing out to people going by.
Nice.
We got to the ballpark, and everybody had a book in their hand. It was pretty great. So I think you guys set a record for card signups too that night or something. Baseball-themed cards. Yeah, it was pretty great. So I just want to thank you guys for all the work that you do. It's an amazing organization to be sitting on the board of, and it's exceptionally well run. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if it's okay, I wanted to mention and thank Assistant City Manager Christina Fernandez, who's actually recently taken over responsibilities to serve on the Operations Committee. So appreciate that she's been doing that. I figured give somebody else a shot since I've done it for many years for this city and a previous city, but just wanted to acknowledge her work.
Thank you. Colleen?
I just wanted to say, anyone that can get people today off computers and excited about reading a book, I'm a fan, because there's so much there. Nothing against reading on a computer, but sometimes that experience for kids who don't spend as much time with books, it's really a wonderful adventure. And I think you've created the space that people want to go to. And you make it interesting, and you have programs so that it's a place they want to go. And that's really enriching lives. They have no idea how much is behind that door that they're just discovering. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for what you do. And, you know, it's great to see the data. I mean, when you go to the library and you see people there, you go, oh, it looks like it's pretty well attended. But then when you see the numbers, you go, okay, yeah, we are increasing folks going to the library and participating at the library. And I know that the library and the city have a great partnership, and we're always, you know, advocating for one another. So, you know, keep, you know, doing that. You know, the lunch at the library, I didn't know that the library did provide lunches. If you could just shine a little bit more light on that.
Sure.
And when they have lunches, what days?
Yep. So our Lunch at the Library is a summer-only program, so
Okay.
it runs through June through August. It is a USDA program with the intention of sort of filling the gap that kids who are getting
From school.
nutrition from school. So aimed primarily at children and families, but of course we'll give food to anybody who comes and would like some. So yeah, last year was our first, or this past year was our second year. So 1 year before that, we had just recently qualified through sort of the, data and metrics and all the maps that they've got. So yeah, this year, we were consistently seeing all of our meals go, which is wonderful. People knew about it. They were telling other people, so it was great to see that program.
Nice.
Was it an everyday thing or?
Monday through Friday at noon this past year.
Throughout the summer.
Throughout the summer.
Wow, that's fantastic. Yeah, I'm sure those families really appreciated that additional help. Well, thank you, Carrie, and yeah, keep doing a great job, you and your staff at our most beautiful local library. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie.
All right, so I see our city attorney is back in the house. Tom, if you could report out from the closed session, please.
Sorry, Council, I made the mistake of going into the other link.
It's all good, man.
On October 2nd, the council met in closed session after the regular meeting of the council. Item D, a liability claim, known as the Sandoval claim, was approved by the council. There was also a conference with legal counsel about anticipated litigation as disclosed on the agenda, and legal counsel and staff were given direction. This evening, the council met prior to this meeting in closed session about a public employee evaluation for the city manager. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tom. All right, so we'll move on to oral communications. This is an opportunity for anyone in the audience, present or online, to bring up a comment about something that's not on tonight's agenda. Anyone out in the audience, you can raise your hand. Anyone online, any of our attendees? Nope, okay. So then we'll move on to the next item, which is the consent calendar. And we have items C through G. If there is anyone who wants to pull an item, I will accept the first.
I'll make a motion to approve items C through G.
Okay.
So
and a
moved. All right, second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Okay, so moving right along here. New business, receive a presentation from Lincoln Property Company regarding consideration of a housing project on 150 North Hill. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Delighted tonight to have representatives of the Lincoln Property Company in attendance who will be giving a presentation in a moment. Per the staff report, the Housing Subcommittee of the City Council met with said development company on September 23rd, where their initial thoughts on a potential housing development for 150 North Hill were shared. Tonight, I believe, Brandon, you'll be making the presentation? The whole team is here. Wonderful. Well, with that, why don't I invite you up to make that presentation. For the council's edification, John Zwicky, our Community Development Director, is online remotely if you have any questions related to the presentation tonight. Thank you.
Good evening, council members, mayor. Thank you for having us. I'm Brandon Wong. I am the regional partner for Lincoln Property Company. I'm joined by my colleagues, Jenny Pham and Mike and Jan with Lincoln, and then we have Sarah Finn, who is our architect with And so we put together a presentation deck that I think will be brought up here shortly on our property at 150 North Hill.
Okay.
If you wouldn't mind going to the first slide, I think this is maybe midway through the presentation. There we go. Okay, so 150 North Hill. This was a property that Lincoln, with a partnership with Angela Gordon, acquired in 2022, and so we're here today to discuss potential residential for this site. A little bit about Lincoln Property Company. We are a private full-service commercial real estate company. We are celebrating our 60th year. While we are a large national, international company, we're very locally based and locally focused. And so I think what we get the scale and the best practices from a large company, but really have the local focus and expertise and boots on the ground to execute on our business plans. And we do both commercial and residential. Here locally, we manage a portfolio of roughly 20 million square feet throughout the Bay Area in Northern California, and operate a number of properties here in the peninsula. Next slide, please. So we're going to jump into our residential experience. The team that we have here has worked together really closely on a number of residential projects of similar scale of what we're going to be talking about today. And so I'm going to introduce Jenny Pham to come up, who spearheads our multifamily practice up and down the West Coast.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having us today. My name is Jenny Pham. I'm Vice President at Lincoln Property Company, working on our residential developments all across the West Coast. And so my role really is to focus on building the best residential projects we can in any of the cities that we operate in. And just wanted to show you a little bit about our a few projects from our portfolio. Next slide. We obviously have worked across the country and even in Europe as well, and have built, hundreds of thousands of units over the course of our 60-year history. Next slide. One of the projects here is a townhome project, very similar to what we're proposing here in Brisbane. This is 90 units. This happens to be in Naperville, Illinois. Next slide. Another project here is a 4-story product in Garden City, Idaho. And the next slide here, we have the Village in Dallas, which is a 7,000 unit project. So anywhere from 90 units to 700 units to 7,000 units, we've built it. We've built townhome, we've built 4-story elevator served, garden style, podium, all the way up to high rise. And I think one of the most important things to note is that with any project we build, we take a local focus, as Brandon said, and we want to listen to the community and hear what would meet your needs and to incorporate that feedback into the project that we build. So we really don't look at it as we're coming into every city to sort of build the same thing everywhere just because we like to do it the same. We really like to be the glove that fits the hand and to listen to your concerns and to build something that really works for you all who live in the neighborhood. And so I think that's the most important part here of just establishing the relationship and introducing the project here today. So thank you for having us again.
Thank you, Jen.
Next slide. I think it's so just a little bit of history on the project. Next slide, please. So again, this is a 75,000 square foot, 2-story building that we acquired in 2022. When we acquired the property, it was a mix of office and life science tenants. At the time, the life science vacancy was incredibly low. The demand was incredibly strong. And what we did over the last number of years is invest capital into building out additional lab spaces, and we invested in the common areas and the exterior. And so I think we're proud of what we were able to accomplish in terms of some of the improvements we made. I think, unfortunately, the market is turned dramatically, and the supply side is quite high. Next slide, please. This is a photo of one of the spec labs we built out. I think the idea was we were really targeting, kind of the sub 10,000 square foot users that would be, growing out of incubator spaces and looking for kind of their first office space. And so we did see some early success there. It has been very slow over the past 2 years. Next slide. Here's a snapshot of some of the stats of when we acquired it to where we are today. The life science vacancy was 3%. We're now over 30%. Rents were $650 triple net, and rents now are almost half that. So again, unfortunately, the market has turned, and we're thinking about what's the next iteration for this property that could result in the highest and best use. Next slide, please. And so with that, I will turn it over to our architect AO with Seraphin, and Seraphin with AO, and he will walk you through our concept for residential.
Good evening. My name is Seraphin Moranin. I'm a partner at AO based in California. First slide, or next slide. I think this is still you. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry. Just as contextually, I think what we want to show is while this is a commercial building, it's actually surrounded by residential. And then we had a shot here of areas that are zoned. While this site is not currently zoned for residential, it is proximate to other sites that are zoned for residential. Next slide, please. And so here is transitioning into what we think is the highest and best use, which would be low-density townhomes, roughly 20 dwelling units per acre. So for a 4-acre site, that would hold roughly 79 townhomes. And this is really focused on housing for families and housing for growing families in the Bay Area, which is really challenging at the moment. And so I think housing is underserved. I think this type of housing in particular is very expensive to come by, particularly on the for sale side. And so this is an opportunity to provide housing that'll be a benefit to families looking to move into a home. So with that, I will turn it back over to Seraphin.
All right, hello again. Seraphin Moranin, partner at AO. Next slide. So the site plan that you see here is really designed from the inside out. The central space, which is the open plaza and the clubhouse, really is the heart of the community. That's the reason that it's in the middle of the project. But we're also trying to understand the context of where this site is. We're aligned on 3 roads, and we also have a parking lot at the back of the existing project to our south. So we designed it so that there are clear frontages along 3 public roads to give you some eyes on the street, which is a good urban planning strategy. But also on the south side, we created side-on conditions so that our residents would not be looking into a parking lot, but looking into our project. The site plan also has contiguous walkways that promotes a lot of passive and active open spaces. These are the townhomes. Each of those boxes that you see would hold 2 cars per townhome. And these are 4-bedroom units. Next slide.
4 or 3?
Well, 3 and then potentially some 4 bedrooms as well.
Okay.
The architecture that we're looking to do here really evokes the Brisbane neighborhood, very familiar and traditional style of homes, but done in a more modern, contemporary fashion with clear lines, identifiable, strong pitched roofs, but with very clean and more modern proportions. So that's what we're looking to build here. Next slide. These are images of how we see our open spaces to be. They foster a lot of community gathering spaces, passive open spaces, and active open spaces, meandering pathways, a lot of shade canopy trees, and of course, drought-tolerant landscape as well. Next slide. Our community building will foster also some community benefits. We would have, for example, an exhibition kitchen where invited chefs can come in and do some exhibition cooking. We can create WeWork spaces or some great grand living room spaces and some conference rooms as well. Next slide. These are the expected finishes of our townhome units. Very modern appointment, wood floors, quartz countertop, open space living, kitchen islands. So those are all state-of-the-art appliances and finishes. Next slide. This is just really a basic massing model of how we see the site to look like. it shows how it's laid out on the site with all the building frontage along the three streets, and you can see how it's demonstrating the site-on conditions along the parking lot to the south. And it also conveys against the architecture that we're looking to build here in some of the community open spaces and quality of architecture, both internally and externally. Next slide. I think that's it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Seraphin. All right, anyone else from your team, or is that, that is it? Okay, well, how about this? Do any council members have any questions for staff?
I have a question for them.
Okay,
Nothing for staff.
all right,
Staff?
for staff, yes.
I do.
Okay, yes.
John, if you're online still, yes?
He is.
Yes, I'm here.
I cannot recall the parameters. Would this housing development fall under inclusionary housing regulations in Brisbane?
Yes, it would.
Okay. Is there any requirement, do you recall offhand the percentage that would have to be inclusionary?
15.
Right around 15%.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I don't have any questions for staff, so we can jump in, oh,
I do have one. Is this intended to be for sale homes or rental homes? For sale homes. Thank you.
all right, so any questions for Lincoln Partners? Madison, you said
Yeah,
that
I
you
do.
want to start, so.
Oh, this is just kind of a offhanded question, but I saw that the Village was one of the examples. And did you work with 9 Dot Arts on that? They are a public art company, consultant, I guess, out of Denver. And we work with them through our public art. They did our public art master plan and they consult with us. And I remember in our interview for them, they used the Village as an example. And so I just didn't know if I remembered that incorrectly, or if you have had experience working with them, because this would trigger our public art ordinance and public art would be a part of this. And so it would just be interesting, 2 parties that have already worked together elsewhere might be converging again.
We would love to work with a partner that we've worked with before. In fact, AO Architects is one of the architects we've worked with on numerous occasions. And on the Village, I'm not sure exactly if we have worked with that vendor for public art, but we would love to continue any partnerships we've had with other folks and would welcome your input on who that might be. The Village is it's a very interesting example of what Lincoln Property has done with residential, because we've created this entire community that we've curated, from the retail to the hotel to the residential and the public art and all the open spaces and community events. We've had a heavy hand in all of that. So we would love to work with you to understand what components we could bring here to Brisbane and even bring those relationships here as well.
Cool.
So.
Thanks.
All right. Terry, any questions for the Lincoln Partners?
No.
Okay, Colleen?
Yes, I do. Thank you. First of all, I want to say I know Lincoln Properties because I believe your headquarters are in Plano, Texas. And many years ago, I saw the massive developments that you did there, and they were really impressive. You were really a catalyst for a lot of development in Dallas-Fort Worth and that whole Metroplex area, as they refer to it. In looking at what you've presented us, it's very interesting. I originally had a question on the 1,600 square foot size, but you kind of answered that when you said you were looking at kind of family-friendly housing. But we also, I have to bring up, because I know someone in the audience is going to say, why didn't she ask that question? We have over and over identified we have a real dire need for starter housing. And that's exactly half of what you're proposing, the 1,600 square feet. So advocating for the people who've asked for this over and over, I would just suggest maybe you consider some 800 square foot units as starter homes. And then the other item in looking at photographs of what you've done, and I appreciate when you talk about the architecture and the gabled roofs. One thing that has also come up here over time in Brisbane is building height. And thinking about the location, I don't think building height is particularly going to be an issue. So I actually, in my mind, said, you're talking about 3 stories, have you considered 4, but articulating the top back so it doesn't look like 4. And if you considered smaller units, those could go on the top because you wouldn't be following the same footprint. And you could actually maximize the footprint of property that you have. So just a suggestion, something to consider. Other than that, and not really clear on what you would finally do architecturally, and that, of course, would be up to you. But in keeping with the site location, it probably would be more amenable to Brisbane if it was something that looked comfortable. Northern California and different areas of California have very different architecture. So we tend to, if you look at the ridge, things that just kind of are a little more demure in the landscape, they don't stand out as glaring. So those would just be my advocacy for everybody at home that would be saying to me later, why didn't you bring that up? Thank you very much. Good presentation.
Thank you. Councilmember Kern.
Hi, thank you for your presentation this evening. I only have one question, and I know we're early on in the process, and these are just renderings. But in looking at the overview, I'm just going to hold up the slide that I'm looking at. I'm just curious, and I know that we're going to have to do some probably standard traffic modeling and the impact on the environment. We have parking problems here in Brisbane and a lot of traffic as it is. But I'm not seeing a place for vehicles. So if we're going to talk 79 townhomes, is the parking going to be underneath them? Is it street parking? There isn't a lot shown on here, so I'm just curious what your thinking was. Again, I know it's early on.
So the product that we're proposing is a townhome product. So that's a 3-story product with a ground floor 2-car garage, and then the living space would be on the 2nd floor, and the bedrooms would typically be on the 3rd floor. So that's sort of the template we're using, and it's been successful in many other markets as well, but there would be 2-car garage for each 1,600 square foot unit in theory.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you'd have guest parking and stuff too, right? Yeah.
There's also guest parking, and Serafin can speak to that.
Yes, we are providing at least 16 guest parking stalls. So if you were to add up all of the parking that we're providing, it comes out to like 2.20 parking ratio. So I think that's pretty good.
Great. Thank you for putting thought into that. Also, thank you for the Naperville example. It's now the 2nd largest city in Illinois, and I have family there. So.
Are there driveways or no driveways? You just pull right into your garage?
There will be driveways, the double-loaded corridors, or driveways that get you to either side of the garage, either left
But
or...
so you could park a vehicle then in the driveway as well?
Technically, you shouldn't do that because they will block if we need the fire lanes to allow fire trucks to go through it, but the driveways are meant to just get you into your personal or private garages.
Okay.
So they're not personal driveways.
They are not. They would be
Not
a
personal driveways.
shared driveways that gets you to your individual garages.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Serafin, you can stay up there, please. So, I'm glad that you're looking at amenities for the people who would be living there. So we have this clubhouse. How big would the clubhouse be?
We're looking at around 4,000 square foot clubhouse that would generally serve just the residents. They're not meant for the public.
Okay, and would that be 1 story?
1 story with a high volume, maybe 15 feet.
Okay, that's a nice size facility. All right, so, just, if you wouldn't mind staying there. So, just kind of going off of what Councilmember Kern's, image that he showed you with the different renderings. And when we met when you met with the Housing Subcommittee, we talked a lot about architecture and what it looks like. And it really is about how the public will view these buildings. That's so important. So would you have the capabilities of being able to apply different styles to these boxes that are in that slide so that we can get a better visual for how that would look in the area, and then how it would relate to the already existing Northeast Ridge at Viewpoint townhomes?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe there might be some kind of a workshop that you guys would be, or the community will be open to
Well, I
talking
know
about.
that's something that you had mentioned, you know, so.
Yeah, we're completely open to I think what we were trying to demonstrate is we want to provide a quality project, right? A project that we think is timeless, but also fits into the character of the city of Brisbane. So we are open to architectural styles. This was a style that has worked well in other markets, but what we were trying to convey was kind of a level of quality, not necessarily the particular architecture. If that makes sense.
Mhm. No, that makes it, you want to do both.
Yes.
Okay, so you would like to have some kind of community engagement to show what
Yeah,
you would like to do?
We would be open to community engagement. We want to make sure the project fits within the community, and residents feel proud to have this as a neighboring project.
All right. I have a question for the city manager. We've recently had some public engagement from a developer. It's been completely separate from the city. And so I'm assuming that that would be a similar process. If you wouldn't mind kind of sharing what might be an appropriate process.
Sure. You're referring to the Quarry Project. Orchard Partners has been putting on their own open houses. They've included bringing in experts related to the type of product that they want to bring forward in the community. They're holding office hours and the like. So we would certainly, if it was useful, make a facility available or otherwise, and advertise is, I think, our primary opportunity. But certainly welcome to start doing that. Just let us know so we can get the message out.
All right, great. Thank you, Brandon. All right, any other questions? All right, well, why don't we just open it up to the public, see if there are any members of the public that want to provide a comment? Anybody in the audience? Michelle?
I'm sorry I'm late, and is this about the Northfield?
Yes.
Yeah, come on up. Okay, come on up.
I'm sorry I was late.
No, don't worry about it. It's perfect timing.
Sorry I was late, I had a class. My question is, I went through all of the plan and everything, but I didn't see a measurement for the planned height of the buildings. I know it says 3 stories, but that's 3 stories could be, there's a wide range for 3 stories. And my concern, of course, is the flyover for the Clippy between Icehouse Hill and Clippy Hill. And so I was just really curious about that. And generally, I mean, I think this might be a really good place for housing, but I am concerned about the overall height and how it will impact the butterflies. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. All right. Oh. Yeah, if you want.
They will be 3 stories. So the peak of the roof may end up being anywhere close to 36 feet,
Okay.
plus minus, depending
Alright.
again on the architecture style. If we're trying to create a more pointed gable, that may increase it a foot or 2. But for the most part, they're about 36 feet from the ground all the way up to the tip of the roof.
Okay, great. Thank you, Serafin. Okay, anybody online, Ingrid?
We have Christina F.
Okay, Christina, you have the floor.
Hi there, thank you for the presentation. On those roofs, you might want to consider roofs that are a bit more solar friendly. And in fact, you might even want to consider building this right from the get-go as a community solar project. So there's that. Is there a potential for first level commercial, that like a coffee shop or such? One of the challenges that we have between the Ridge and central Brisbane is a sense of isolation between those 2 communities. And although this is close to the other housing area, that hill prevents it from being actually a very comfortable walk. So there is a risk of this becoming very, very isolated from the rest of Brisbane. And it would be nice if there was a coffee shop destination or someplace where city council people could meet with residents, that sort of thing. 3 floors is not really suitable for senior housing. So you might want to consider a bit more flexibility in the designs, not have such a cookie cutter approach overall, but as was mentioned before, starter homes, senior apartments, or senior residences, things like that. You're also very near a bus stop, except that it appears that you have put the entrance into the project on the opposite end from the bus stop, which would require someone to walk entirely around it in order to get to that bus stop. This location is one of the few that would be close to transportation, although it's just one bus and that bus isn't all that frequent, but it would create a commute opportunity for someone to have an alternative to a car. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Christina. Anyone else online? All right, any further comments or questions from council?
So I know that this is a presentation and it's not really a time for us to be asking questions, although it was listed as new business, so I'm not quite sure what the rules on that are. Could we get a quick summary of what that is from our city attorney?
Sorry, Madam Councilmember O'Connell, I'm not understanding the question.
Well, with the presentation, we're normally not able to discuss it or really ask some of the questions that we might if we were discussing a project, but because this is listed as a new business item, I'm not sure, and we've taken public comment, I'm not sure how that really relates to what we can say on the dais here or what kind of questions we can ask staff or that kind of thing. So I'm just asking for clarification.
The council among itself should not be discussing it tonight. As far as asking questions about the presentation back and forth, that's fine. Council shouldn't be responding to public comment, and it shouldn't be having a discussion among itself on whether this is a good project, bad project, should be changed. That should not occur this evening.
Okay.
How would that conversation be agendized then? Like, what should it say? Because that's kind of what I thought we were gonna do. I thought we were gonna take a pulse of whether the council is even interested in entertaining housing at this site, considering it's not zoned for housing, and talking about the steps that we would need to take to move forward should there be an interest. So I think like we need to gauge an interest level at some point.
So Councilmember Davis, the issue as I understand it is this has not gone through. The council's hearing about it. The council's asking questions, expressing some interest. I've heard at least from 2, but you have a process with committees, commissions, other things. This is not formally before the council for action.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really just getting the information. Again, ask questions. Just what you don't want to do is seem to be bypassing the commissions or the committee process by rendering a decision tonight, no matter how informal.
Thank you, Tom. That answers on what topics I would bring up for staff to answer or for planning to answer that I wouldn't want to do if we're just receiving the presentation, which is what I understood.
That was how I understood it as well. I'm sorry if staff should correct me if I've misunderstood, but I thought it was just a presentation this evening.
I'll be candid. I don't think we thought as deeply about it in the way that we're having the discussion this evening.
Yeah.
The opportunity tonight was to what we intended was that there'd be a presentation, and if the council had any questions or comments, that would be appropriate. My apologies if we put it under the wrong title.
Yeah.
No apologies necessary. I'm just glad I didn't just spend 5 minutes telling everybody the wrong thing. My advice stands. It's a presentation.
You know, when Lincoln came before the housing subcommittee and they did their presentation, we felt they should do the presentation in front of the entire council. And because the council meetings are publicly broadcasted, it then puts the word out for everybody that, okay, here's this potential project from this property owner. In the end, it's up to them what the next steps are going to be. And they've indicated what they would like to do, and we'll just see how that all plays out in the future.
Yeah, through the chair, we'll work with the, potentially an applicant at some point, but work with the interested party on next steps. And I think one next step sounds like some public outreach, which clearly we're encouraging. So we'll be in touch, Brandon.
Great. All right. So I think we've given enough direction. And thank you very much
Thank you for coming.
coming this evening. All right. Have a good evening. Okay. So moving on to staff reports. City manager's report, city updates, and upcoming activities. City Manager Dennis.
Thank you very much. Starting tomorrow, Friday, October 17th, from 11 to 12, active adults can participate in a Friendsgiving social at the Colma Rec Center. Information's online on our calendar. On Saturday, we are holding our, I think it's the first time we've done something like this, it's certainly in a while, Volunteer Pathways event. It's an opportunity for residents who may be interested in serving on a commission or committee or otherwise be a volunteer with the city to hear more about that. That's from 10 to 12, and that will be, I believe, in this room. On same evening, or same day in the evening, 6:30 to 9 is a drive-in movie night at the Brisbane Community Pool. We'll be showing Ghostbusters. Again, starts at 6:30.
There you go.
On October 23rd is our fall compost giveaway, due on an annual basis, and it will be, the compost is available under the Tunnel Avenue Bridge just off Bayshore. On the 24th of October is the middle school dance at Lippman. That's at, 7 to 9. Excuse me, that's at Mission Blue from 7 to 9.
Yeah, all right.
Parents' Night Out is the 25th of October. That's from 5 to 10. And that will be, information's online related to that event. Earlier that day, same day from 1:30 to 3:30, the Idea Committee is holding its short film festival. That will be at the, here in this room, again, 1:30 to 3. I really appreciate the Idea Committee working on this. 26th of October is our Diwali celebration. That will be held at the Brisbane Library from 1 to 4. It was a very popular event last year. We're anticipating many people coming. October 29th is Teen Nights. We hold those once a month, and that's a drop-in at the Sunrise Room from 5:30 to 8 for those who are teenagers. Finally, October 30th from 5:30 to 6:30 is the Halloween. Halloween is the name of it, sorry, at the Park Gazebo. 5:36, come with your pets, all dressed up. And I should say that Friday is our first annual Halloween event. We're closing a number of roads in the city. The excitement is palpable at this point.
City Brisbane.
In the community.
Be
For
prepared.
better or worse.
Yeah.
A little too early to call it an annual event.
I was a little excited. Yes, I apologize.
I guess we'll just see.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. The effort has been just extraordinary. The residents who are volunteering, we're up above 30 residents who will be participating. Police will have a heavy presence to ensure that our roads are safe along with our volunteers. We think it's going to be great. So I hope people come out.
Yay.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we have nice weather, I think. Or I guess we kind of don't know. We'll see,
We
right?
don't know yet.
Knock on wood. I guess it's too far out. So, all right. Moving on to mayor council matters, and we have an item, item J, consider formation of a Parkside 2 ad hoc subcommittee. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'm going to hand this over very quickly to Mayor Pro Tem Mackin, who suggested that the council have this conversation this evening in order to ensure a lively and informed conversation. The staff put together very quickly the staff report in front of you. That includes some renderings to help show the site, and we also included the precise plan for those who may not recall it. I'd like to turn it over to the Vice Mayor.
Thank you, City Manager. So I prepared a lot of notes because I don't want to miss any of my points. We've had Bank of America pop-ups progressing. There was one in the summer at the library, and then most recently there was one at Bank of America. And the public was asked, what do you want? Several visions have been identified. There were 3 visions, I understand, that are commercial retail, one of those mixed use retail with residential. 2 visions were community amenities, community center, or a teen center. One was just pure housing. And I think for the community, the workshops were helpful. To me, they've shown our residents aren't really quite sure what they want, but they have lots of ideas. But that's Brisbane. We're used to that. And this reminded me of years ago when Parkside 1 was being explored, because the consultants and the public struggled even back then. And we pretty much learned that it's very easy for people to know absolutely what they don't like. It's hard to pull together a collective vision on what we do want. And I think it's important to recall, why did the council decide to go ahead and purchase the Bank of America building? It was really all about self-determination, period. We knew it was a pivotal piece of property. We wanted to have control over it, and we deemed it the face of Brisbane property. Right now, we're kind of at a crossroads for our city. No less than 2 very large developments are on the table, potentially 2 more at Sierra Point waiting in the wings. And we also have seen from the presentation that we just saw, there's properties being sold, considered for other uses, other developments. Numerous large commercial properties are for sale in our industrial park. You may be aware of that. Some of the public may not be aware of that. And now one adjacent to Brisbane Village that is referred to as the Calsters property was recently sold to Prologis. Prologis is now in Brisbane one of our largest property owners. And if you don't know Prologis, they are international. You might have seen their commercials on television. Potentially, bottom line is there are lots of people who will be telling us what Brisbane will look like. And for me, looking at all the Bank of America pop-ups and the circumstances that I just described, I asked myself the question, when are we going to decide what Brisbane looks like? And what I'm suggesting is simply, can we explore what it would take to create a specific plan for our face of Brisbane? And by that, I'm referring to the area between Old County and Valley Drive. Call it Parkside 2. Because back when the original Parkside plan was being finalized, there was a discussion about possibility of extending that vision of Parkside 1. And it would be Parkside 2. And that would be the area from the basketball courts all the way to the shopping center. So I want you to think about, with all of these moving parts going on in Brisbane, isn't this the time to actually develop a cohesive vision for the face of Brisbane? Or we can sit back and watch someone else do it. Is that what we want? And in looking at that particular area that I just described to you, Brisbane has so many assets. You should really go out and look at that property and walk it. Because in a car, it's very different. Or you go to the community park, it's very different. You go to the shopping center, it's very different. If you get out and you walk from City Hall and you walk the street to the back lots, and then you come to a point, and at one point it's really breathtaking. I hadn't done it. And you look and there's the mountain, this big, beautiful vista. And most people never see that because it's obscured by trees, unless you find that little spot there. We have that beautiful mountain backdrop. We've got a green park with trees and a gazebo. It's like all the small town charm you could ever ask for. But take a walk in the Parkside 2 area, what I'm referencing. Go out to Bayshore and take another look. The killer view of the mountains obstructed. There's overgrown trees, shrubs and weeds, debris boxes, brush, trash, backs of warehouses, a strip mall shopping center that can't even be accessed easily from Bayshore. There's a clock tower with a clock that doesn't work, a signboard showing businesses that no longer exist there. It's a lovely area with so much potential, but it's been neglected. People from other communities love to use our park. You see them on the weekend, and you go, wow, that's got to be somebody from another neighborhood. I've never seen these people. They love our park. It's always full, weekend capacity. But one can just imagine them saying, this little town has so much, and yet it's as if they don't know what to do with it. They don't realize what they have. So as an example, I started thinking about this. Redwood City had a really blighted downtown. I don't know if you ever saw it years ago. It was horrible. It was unsafe, run down. There were lots of different owners, blocks and blocks of properties. What do you do when there's all these different property owners? How did they approach turning that around? Because they did. They created a vision. What's that? It's a specific plan. Specific plan, much like we did for Parkside 1. It simply says, this is what we want to happen in this area. They approached the owners, they approached developers, and they said, this is what we want. Work with us. Instead of waiting for someone to come to them and say, this is what it's going to look like. They were proactive. Brisbane's in the sight of many, many developers now. You know that. It's raw material for them. They'll be coming to town with their plans, as they always have. They're already doing it. And we'll be bracing ourselves for what they might want to do that we might not like. Shouldn't we decide what we want our city to look like for a change? Why have we never done this? Residents have always complained about the lack of amenities here. We're always struggling with revenues now, but we haven't really done much about it. And what's important always is our small town charm. What are we doing to protect that? If we're letting other people decide what Brisbane looks like, we can't protect it if they decide everything. We can keep that small town charm if we do things right. It is possible. So I wanted you to see what some other cities have done, and I brought just a couple slides. Ingrid, who just disappeared, hopefully is listening to me. Oh, Angel's got it. Okay, just some street scenes to just see what did other people do to create. You hear about placemaking and place setting. And I think we have some of that in Brisbane, but there's so much more that could be done. So if we could show some slides. Redwood City, Government Plaza there. It's really an inviting place, not only for visitors. I've gone and sat there, but for people who live there. It's a gathering point. Go ahead. This is Crystal Springs. Crystal Springs, instead of having a strip mall, they created a place. It's got a rustic feel. It fits the surroundings. So they gave some thought to what would fit into our community. Go ahead, next one. Little wider view. They've got a clock that works, by the way. Keep going. Shows on the street, they have things. Okay, go ahead, back. And I don't know, I think that might be Belmont or San Carlos. Keep going. Redwood City, grand entrance. Keep going. I think that might be San Carlos or Belmont, not sure. And another street scene. And when you look at these, doesn't it make you want to sit there and you go, oh my God, we have really great weather. That one I know is Redwood City. Another with the street scene. Keep going. Yeah, that might be the last ones. So, thank you, Angel. So years ago, we were told many times when our community, we'd say, okay, come tell us what you want. And we talked about the Baylands. And people would come out and they'd say, oh, I want this and this and this and this and this. And guess what? They all got disappointed because we were told, oh, you don't have enough drive-by traffic. Those businesses won't survive. Look at your shopping center. Look at all the empty storefronts. You don't have enough people to keep those businesses going. But guess what? We do now. And it's only going to increase. Well, so obviously right now we don't have a thriving retail area. And what are we missing? Why aren't they thriving? Are we really offering the businesses that people want? Maybe not. Have we created the spaces that people really enjoy? Maybe not. Don't we want places that our residents will enjoy? We have that lovely park, but where else? Where else does that exist? And I just want to remind everyone that change just makes everybody cringe in Brisbane. But change is going to happen whether we want it or not. So the question is, do you want to decide or do you want someone to decide for you? It starts simply with exploring what it would take to start this. All that I'm simply suggesting before everybody gets their ire raised and go, oh my God, what, she's got all these secret plans. All I'm suggesting is we form an ad hoc committee to explore. What's the harm in that? Find out some facts. Maybe talk to the people that worked on Redwood City. I understand from our mayor, that was Good City as it happens. I was surprised by that. We're using Good City and they know all about Redwood City. And our mayor told me that they learned some things in that project in Redwood City that they said they would have done differently. Well, great. We don't have to go through the problems and the things that didn't go well. Maybe we can use their expertise. And I'm just very concerned. We have Bank of America, this little speck of property at the corner that we deem the face of Brisbane important because it has a retail presence. And is that really just our retail presence, that one spot? And we're going to design all of that and pretend nothing around it exists? Is that good planning? And why shouldn't we think bigger? Why should we let everybody else do that for us and then come shove it down our throats? And that's how it feels to me. Everybody's telling us what to do, and we're not telling ourselves, what do we want? And when you look back at old photos of Brisbane, you'll see that there were points where there were all the marshes and the lagoons, and the entrance to town was different. Doesn't look like that today. So there are times in the history of a city where there are opportunities and big changes happen. And I think we're at a critical junction right now. Things are moving around us, even if we're sitting still and pretending, no, we don't want anything to change. It is going to change. I'd just like to have us explore what it would take to put together this Parkside 2 as an extension, come back to the council, and just talk about whether we should go forward with it or not. No obligation, that's all. Just explore. I know this is real departure from how we typically operate. Being proactive, that's kind of contrary to Brisbane. We don't want people to know we're here. But I think it's time. I think Brisbane's grown up. And I think not taking advantage of what is really maybe the best opportunity we have to make those big changes the way we want to see them. We may miss that opportunity, and then we're going to live with what somebody else put on our plate. So I'm asking just for an ad hoc committee, and I would love to hear some feedback. Thank you for listening to my long-winded presentation.
No, thank you, Councilmember Mack, and obviously you're very passionate about this, and we all know that you do your research too. So it was very thorough, and thank you for bringing it to be agendized and for the council to discuss. And so let's open it up for discussion. Any council members have questions for Councilmember Mackin or amongst ourselves?
I have a question.
Okay.
I'm struggling to understand what Parkside 2 is, because I feel like all of the parcels that you've called out were in the original Parkside.
If you look at page 2. And as you recall, where it shows the housing, and then we have Brisbane Village over there. And that was never totally planned out. or
What
dealt
do
with.
you mean by planned out?
Well, Parkside was an overlay for, as you know, because you and Councilmember O'Connell had worked on that and making smaller housing units. But then it was kind of, well, we have this other corner with Brisbane Village, and well, we can kind of render it, but that's not what we're dealing with. So maybe we'll talk about it later.
So, because we weren't proposing changing the designation, right? So there's no need to plan anything. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like,
Okay.
what do you want to see, like a rendering of a new shopping center? Like, I'm just trying to figure out what is the goal.
The goal is to examine what are the possibilities for the area in general, because we have a housing overlay and it's not been built. Maybe it will be built. Maybe it won't be built. Maybe it'll be something else. But if we say that was Parkside 1, but we have this other area, and I'm euphemistically calling it Parkside 2 because it's kind of a second phase of looking at the land use in the area. Part of what even made me think of this is, when high-speed rail was coming to town, and we were all looking at, the implications, entrance to town, the bridge, et cetera. And the council broke into some committees, and we were examining how things might change. And it was really kind of for me personally, a discipline that we hadn't visited before. And in some ways it was intriguing because it forced us to go, wow, what if we have to move the fire station or do this or that? And instead of saying, oh, that could be terrible, it started getting me thinking it could be really good. But we've never looked at things that way.
I'm just I guess I'm just confused because all of what you're like, now we own Bank of America. That is our property, right? Like, we have a jurisdiction over that. Everything else, though, is private property. And we did Parkside 1, even though it was private property, because we had to do a zoning overlay. And so we did the zoning overlay. We satisfied the requirements for the state. We, acknowledged that the village is private property, and where, Heirloom and the Calster's property specifically, is private property, and we didn't really designate housing for right there. But and that's why we didn't spend all this money redesigning commercial, because that wasn't really what we were charged to do.
Correct.
But, when cities get involved in housing, that's really in our domain.
Absolutely.
Is to try to yield housing. But I guess the disconnect I'm struggling with is when cities start getting into like commercial development and commercial planning, with it, which I really see as like a separate
I can answer
thing.
that for you. So I got a little help from John Swecky, who understands quite a few things about this. And again, looking at what Redwood City accomplished. That downtown was private ownership. They didn't buy those properties. So how did they manage to have all of those dramatic changes? We regulate land use through zoning and conditional uses. We do have authority over that. We have the legal authority to establish zoning districts and apply them to private property, commercial and
Sure, I know
residential.
that.
So it provides for, and this is from John, orderly development of the city according to its goals and policies. You make a specific plan. You're setting a plan in place for an area, whether it's residential or commercial. You're providing a vision. And you sometimes do that in conjunction with amending your general plan, because you're setting forward the vision for what you want your city to be. And you can do it with overlay zones, so that if property changes hands, maybe it goes from one use and you're saying this now has a new zoning and that use is no longer acceptable.
No, I understand all that. I think what I don't understand is like what specifically you want to see that has prompted, like, I feel like there's maybe a deeper vision. You've had examples of like, you know, a plaza or whatever. And so I'm just trying to figure out like what are the specific things that you think might be able to come to the area should we go through this exercise that are different than what's existing?
I think that many of the things that even residents have already brought up, we don't have a vibrant retail component. And we're obscuring the $1 million view. We don't have a really nice area that everybody had said, oh, if we just had restaurants and nice view and place to sit outside. We don't have a lot of that. We just don't. And it's no fault. It's most of our retail area grew up decades ago, and Brisbane was different at that time. So I think that the bonus, what we have, the attributes that we have are not being used as well as they could. You look at the Bank of America and it's just sitting there. And then you have this strip mall that's not even facing Bayshore. It's not even accessible. And then you've got warehouses. And it's almost like you have this wonderful little city in Brisbane. And who designed this? Why would you do that? So I would like to see nicer places for people to enjoy sitting with businesses. Obviously, the business component is not what people are looking for. So maybe it could be boutique businesses. It could be some more restaurants. It could be existing restaurants that moved down there closer to Bayshore and they'd get a lot more business. There's lots of ways we can approach this, and it can be retail, it could be housing, there could be areas for housing. Many possibilities, but we've never explored it. When I say exploring it, I really mean exploring it. Like, here's many possibilities. What seems intriguing? What ideas could we come up with?
So, if I may.
Sure.
When we first looked at Parkside, we hired a consultant to come in. Mm-hmm. And it was early days for some of us on the council. And they took a block of Brisbane and called it Parkside. And their goal was twofold. Was one, to give us enough housing for our housing element. Mm-hmm. And they also looked at doing, and part of that, how they incorporated the housing, was an overlay over the old, the Brisbane Village, Bank of America area, along with other areas, to give mixed use and a variety of uses. And the council and the people didn't like the product. Mm-hmm. And we spent, I don't know, I'm going to say close to $500,000 doing that research. Yep. Maybe a little less. Maybe it was closer to 300,000. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. It was a lot of money for a product that wasn't very satisfactory. And then we sort of clawed it back. Mm-hmm. I remember. And made it a smaller overlay because we didn't have any control over the Brisbane Village. And at that point, it wasn't as neglected as it is now. And we felt that if Parkside had any hope of being a success, that we needed to make it less inclusive of the existing commercial areas. Mm-hmm. Since that time, village has gone into neglect to a certain degree. The city itself has taken over a building across the street, which I don't think we're gonna tear down after borrowing a ton of money to renovate it, to make it into something else. But for the most part, commercial businesses, if they're going to be successful, people need, excuse me, need to come in who know how to run a commercial space. And they need to have a viable business plan. You can't say, oh, well, I want a coffee shop here and a dry cleaner there and a this here and an
Totally agree.
Italian restaurant there and a hamburger joint here and a wine bar there.
Yep.
Unless that business is feasible and has enough traffic, and you know, we've done hotel studies and small grocery store studies and all sorts of things to look at the economic viability of many of these places. And you know, our tiniest little pizza parlors and Mexican restaurants can barely scrape by.
Absolutely.
And no one's going to, people are not going to come knock our doors down, especially if we have high development standards on how cute something must look like and what kind of business it could even be. That's not how necessarily an area gets developed. Now, you keep bringing up Redwood City, and that they had a dying downtown area that was, you know, pretty dismal. And they were able to get some restoration projects going with the theater, having the theater open, brought in some nightlife, which brought in some nightlife, which brought in some nightlife. But it has a huge, comparative to Brisbane, population
Tons of new
base.
housing too.
And a whole ton of new housing. And so we have a very different dynamic than what is going to happen. I think I'm not against you looking at an overlay for the commercial area, with your vision and public input and whoever's vision. But I think that we need to realize that the economic development is really, really slow. And until you have someone willing to invest a ton of money,
A ton.
a ton of money.
Yes.
And I'm fine with there being a subcommittee, personally, to look at what might be all good and well and shiny bright and make it a really livable space. We don't have nights where you're going to want to sit outside on the corner having your dinner outside. It's too windy and cold 80% of the time, 85%. You can't run a successful business as a patio area if 85% of the time it's not, you can't be out there. And so I think you really need to look at all different kinds of things, but I think that with so many projects going on right now that are looming and that are taking staff time, consultant time, council time, subcommittee time, that, you know, if you want to do this, that's fine. I would say we shouldn't hire a consultant. I mean, if you want to look over what has been proposed and what, you know, and broaden the overlay, that might be one thing, and that's fine to do. But I think that you can't be unrealistic on what Brisbane is able to support with its existing 5,000 people. We can't support so many things. We can barely support what we have. And no one's going to come in to start a cute little unsuccessful business unless it's a glory project for yourself and you say, I don't care if no one comes to eat at my restaurant or if it makes a profit. I want to have a beautiful little restaurant in Brisbane. Great.
Exactly.
But you got to have really deep pockets to do that, and you have to have a willing investor and willing people willing to loan you the money for it or pull it out of your pocket And that's really hard. A city can't say, we have to have this here or nothing.
We need a diner.
We need a diner, we need a wine bar, we need a grocery store, we need, put an X on whatever thing you think you want. And wouldn't it be great if we had this cute little enclave of 6 little restaurants that you could get a nice whiskey over here and a glass of wine there and, you know, whatever meal opportunities you want. But we're at home cooking. We're not down there having our nightlife. So anyway, I think if you want to start a subcommittee, great. That's what this discussion's about. I was shocked to get, 87 pages of packet on a discussion if we should have a subcommittee. And I was even more shocked at how long your sales pitch to have one is. But if you want one,
she cares about it, right?
great.
So, okay.
So if I may respond. So I appreciate your comments, Councilmember O'Connell, because everything I do in life, I play devil's advocate. And you hit all the points that I would say as devil's advocate. And I think you got very granular about, well, we want this restaurant here and we want this group here and there. And I didn't get that granular in my idea at all. And I think the fact that there are some small cities who have very vibrant retail areas and
Who?
have been successful. Go up in Marin County. There's some cities that have done really nice things with their downtowns. Mill Valley has done some beautiful things just in the area near Mill Park. And so I'm not suggesting that we have deep pockets, and I'm not suggesting spending a fortune on a consultant, but we have a consultant right now. We're paying a consultant. And to what end are we paying this consultant?
Bank of America?
Bank of America. We already have a consultant. And I'm not suggesting we look like Redwood City. That's not where I'm coming from. I just mentioned Redwood City because it really is a good example of a city that had the determination to say, this isn't okay with us anymore, and we want this to be better. And in terms of what something would look like, have no idea. And a lot of, if you talked about the businesses struggling in Brisbane, absolutely. To me, that says they're not offering the product that people want. It's that simple, because if, the whole saying of if you build it, they'll come. And I'm not saying that we would have all the answers, but I think that the partnerships that might be available because of all of these different property owners now and everybody wants to develop, I'm suggesting that it's time to start talking about what we want and who wants to partner with us with our vision, and start talking. Maybe we don't have the whole vision, but we need to start looking at what we want instead of just reacting. I would like to see us be proactive. And I think we can do better. And I think we can find something that would work in Brisbane and survive. We've got an awful lot of drive-by traffic. There's an awful lot of development happening, and that is going to happen. And if there's ever the time with the opportunity to make these changes, I think you wait 5-10 years, it's not going to be there anymore.
Councilmember Kern, if you wouldn't mind jumping on in and giving us your 2 cents, please.
I'll give you 3
Or
cents.
5 cents.
3 cents. I'll just give you 3 cents, that's all. So this council's amazing. So I have this whole list of questions, and starting from left to right, you're just slowly asking all the questions. So my very first question out of the gate was, as a new council member, I get to ask the dumb questions. I was like, what is a Parkside 2? And so I realize now it's branding, taking a former project to the next level. So I'm in a good spot now, understanding that. Another question I had was, is Good Cities aware of the Parkside 1 project?
Yes.
And it sounds
Yes,
like
they
they
are.
are, so that's great. As I understand it today, the current Parkside Overlay District is in existence. That's a question for staff, yes or no?
Yes, with a caveat. So, and I pointed this out in the staff report, but I think it's important to note, the precise plan looked at a larger area than what the overlays ultimately have.
Got it. Thank you for that clarification. And that looks like that's been in place for 7 years. Have we had any applications?
No.
No,
Okay. Asking to understand. Thank you. Where do I go next here? 2 questions left. Number 1, I guess I'll go here. Someone's going to correct me on this, but I think it was the ancient Greeks that came up with the third place of existence. So you had where you earned your living and what you did during the day, and you had the place where you slept with and you were with your family at night, and the third place of existence was common areas. A company by the name of Starbucks paid attention to this, and they sort of followed that model. They don't sell coffee, they sell a third place of existence. We don't have a real third place of existence in Brisbane. So, you know, I think that that's something that we can potentially look at. I think for this ad hoc subcommittee to be super successful, it needs to have a single measurable objective or goal that they're going to deliver on, period, the end. So that's my thoughts on that. So I'm supportive of this.
Okay, great.
Can I say something?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I feel like I was just asking questions. I have to disagree with you, Frank. I think the library is a third place of existence. I think the park is a third place of existence. I think the marina is a third place of existence. I think Madhouse is a third place of existence. So I think we actually deliver on so many amazing common spaces. Anyway, just had to throw that in there. I think that page 85 in our packet, there's 2 paragraphs that are really important to note here, and I'm going to read them out loud. The area's 1 mile trade area includes nearly 5,000 residents and 3,000 jobs, falling far short of typical retail and restaurant preferences for 12,000 to 18,000 residents in a market area. While Bayshore Boulevard provides high levels of passing traffic, it is not enough to compensate for the small local population, and local residents and workers form the primary base of demand for local serving retailers. Retail uses in the plan area and along Visitation Avenue, commercial corridor, serve the trade area's limited demand. This includes a variety of independent restaurants, personal and professional services, and a small grocery and convenience store. New housing in the Parkside area will bring new residents to the city's core, while the increased population will likely lead to a greater patronage of local serving retail, entertainment, and dining establishments. The increase is not anticipated to be enough to attract large-scale commercial grocers and corporate retail businesses like a drugstore in Brisbane. So since this time, we were courting Montero Credit Union to come in and lease Bank of America site. They're a nonprofit, so obviously they can do things differently than a Bank of America or a Chase would. They put the ATM, they started building a customer base in Brisbane, they started getting a sense of how many accounts might be here, and they started really deeply considering Bank of America and doing studies. And ultimately they came to the conclusion that that site, despite it being on Bayshore, there's not enough traffic on Bayshore. Forget about if it's oriented the right way. There's not enough traffic on Bayshore and people in the area to justify opening a branch there. And this is very recent. This is not, I don't see big changes that have happened that would all of a sudden attract, nice, bright and shiny businesses. In fact, we just had a bright and shiny business that we really need, a core service, tell us, nope, not for us. So my concern is that the subcommittee is going to take a look at this and they're going to recommend hiring a consultant. Because I think that's how you slice this, right? If you want a specific plans generally mean consultants, which generally means 100,000, if you're lucky, 200, 250,000. We spent even more on MIG to do Parkside, but we had to do that. It was a requirement. And so we didn't really have a choice. And it's the same players in Parkside 1 as it is in Parkside 2. So you have Prologis, who now owns more properties and has not really been receptive to anything at Parkside. Doesn't mean that they won't be. And then you have the village, which is in more disarray than it's ever been. I mean, it's under new management, and if you could call it that, there's not much management happening. We've lost a lot of tenants there. I would love to see a subcommittee, whether it's that one or another one, tackle what I think is a pervasive problem that we have, which is vacancies of commercial spaces all throughout town. One San Bruno has been vacant pretty much the entire time it's been there. All of a sudden now we're going to get a Montessori school, which is great. But I would love to see the council figure out what do we do about chronically vacant commercial spaces in town. I think that's a really good use of time and energy. I also think evaluating our planning policies around how commercial spaces get created. For example, the senior home development that's never been developed at the 23 Club site had a commercial space in there that's like a flower window. And they had to put it in there because that's what our code requires, but it's like the most unviable commercial space you could ever dream up, which is just contributing to this ongoing problem of having these vacant spaces. If you had some kind of carrot or stick to ensure that you had rented spaces, it's like Terry said, something attracts something else, attracts something else. So if you had a village shopping center that was completely full of restaurants and shops, that might make a buyer really attracted to buying that site and putting a lot of money into it because they see the potential. And so, I mean, and then also, what do we want to accomplish on visitation? Do we want to accomplish more of mixed use, or are we moving to more residential because we require these commercial spaces and then they get rented out as residential, and we don't do anything about that.
Right.
I see it on Zillow all the time because that's like my new favorite thing. I'm on Zillow like 3 times a day. And I constantly am seeing places for rent that I know are commercial units. So that's a huge problem that you don't need a specific plan to tackle. That's a policy decision that we can make and discuss, and something personally I always feel like we need to talk about. The borough is a classic example of a business who came in and wanted it to not be public facing at all. They wanted to just process tea, and someone brilliant in the city, whether it was the council or someone from the city, was like, no, sorry, you have to have a storefront. And it's one of our busiest storefronts, if not the busiest on visitation. But then you have Nana's site, right? Somebody's come in there and nothing's happening. Doesn't seem like any work is going on. Is that just going to be a kitchen that somebody's using to do commercial catering and they're never going to open the doors to the public? That would be a travesty. A few doors up where St. Studio used to be, where the old laundry mat is, it's a clothing studio that says never open and they have the windows drawn. And now we have a business that's operating just as a office that the public will never interact with. And are those the kind of businesses that we want to attract? Because that's what's breeding now in Brisbane. So we're losing so many of our spaces to that. So that, I think, is a really great use of time and energy. So in Parkside too, in the areas that I'm seeing that would be ripe for development would be the former CalSTRS site. That's essentially a vacant lot that's now owned by Prologis. Then you have the village. Personally, I think that unless those parties are kind of willing to come to the table, I don't know that now is the time to make a whole, it depends on how specific your specific plan is getting, but I don't know that it makes sense to redesign that whole area if you're throwing money at something that parties are completely disinterested in. And from my perspective, we have things that are within our domain of control, like the teen center, like the community center, which is, by the way, the roof is leaking and it really needs our attention immediately. And to me, if I'm going to spend $100,000 or $200,000 on a consultant, I want that to go towards a project that is an open loop right now that we really need to address. And I think that we're getting distracted by something maybe fun and exciting that we want to work on, instead of really closing all the loops that we have, like parcel R. And you know, I'm concerned that we're going to say, oh, well, actually, we need to get this specific plan going for Parkside 2. And until we have that, it really doesn't make sense then to build anything on Bank of America. And I think that's disingenuous to the community, because they've just spent all this time and energy giving us all this feedback. We've had this property for many years now. And according to Good City, housing is one of the only viable things that would make sense on that site. And so, you know, that's something that our community desperately needs. And so if we determine as a council we don't want housing to go there, then we should just sell it. Because we are not in the business of doing commercial development. Mixed use is one thing. Fully commercial, like that's not what we as cities do. What makes sense is like a company like Lincoln. It's so perfect that they were here tonight. They came in and they said, we have a commercial site and it's not working. And this is our plan. And sometimes you have to let the market, you know, you don't want people to tell you who you are. I think it's a little bit of fear mongering, in my opinion, that whole mentality. I think that, and it is kind of what we use to justify Bank of America, because it's the entrance to town and you don't want someone to come and put a drive-through. You do have you have the control if you own it. But like with Lincoln, I would have never thought of that site for housing. No way. And they came in, they said, we've been putting money into it. It's not working. We have a new plan. This is what we want to do. It's all thought out. And sometimes those are the opportunities that you're looking for, is when somebody says, I have the money, I have the interest, and I'm willing to do the investment and the work. And then you start having conversations about what it should look like, what it should have, how many units. If we were to go and do a whole plan for that site and make something up like we did for Parkside, right? We planned Parkside. Well, look, it's not getting built because clearly to Prologis, it's not viable. They don't want to do it. And likely, if Prologis did want to do it, they would come and say, hey, if we're going to develop these sites, this is what would work for us. And then you start having that negotiation. So until there's a party who wants to do that negotiation, to me, it's like, you know, I don't want someone designing my house for me. I want to buy the land and I want to design my house within the parameters. But I just am afraid that all of a sudden we're going to be spending $100,000, $200,000 that we don't have, and make this a priority when it shouldn't be one, in my opinion, when there are other things that are more important. So if you guys want to have the ad hoc subcommittee and look at things, fine. But if that's where you think this is going, when we have this conversation again, I'm probably going to be a no to hiring a consultant.
May I address some of the points you made? There's many things you brought up, Councilmember Davis, that I completely agree with. All the problems we have. And those problems were here 15 years ago and 20 years ago. And what have we done to fix them? Nothing. And 5 years from now could go, oh, that's still a problem.
Yeah.
And I just keep seeing it going on. So, you know, the definition of madness, when you think it's going to change. And so I'm trying to say, let's not go the same route. And it's not always about having a developer come to you and say, I want to do this. And then you say, oh, well, you need to work with us. It's about having the vision and meeting with people who own property or who have money, who want to invest in your vision. That's a different concept. And all of the other things that you mentioned, buildings that we have in need of repair, businesses that didn't work. But you mentioned boba guys, and that's interesting. How can they be so successful? Because it's what people wanted. And we obviously have a problem. We have businesses that maybe are not what people want. Either it's the product or the setting. Sometimes it could be both. And so I'm not saying, again, I'm not saying the granular vision of this is exactly what this would look like. I'm saying we explore how we can look at the area as a blank slate, pretend nothing's there, and say, what would we do with this? And we have Parkside right now. That's owned by all those on Park Lane. That's Prologis, as you pointed out. Prologis now owns the Callister's property. Prologis wants to do things in Brisbane. Maybe Prologis needs to work with us. But what have we ever put on the table with them and said, hey, how about this?
Parkside. We did. We put that on the table several
How
times.
many years ago was that?
That's something that this subcommittee can do.
Well, that's why I'm saying to look at the whole thing holistically and not just Bank of America. And I'm not suggesting spending $100,000, $200,000 because I said it would be exploratory and coming back. Very simple exploration, which we have not ever done since I have lived here. I have never seen this done.
So, we had Assemblymember Pappen in the House on Saturday. And one of the things that she said was, cities don't build housing.
Right.
It's developers do. But the cities plan, and the cities zone. And that's what we do. And so what Councilmember Mack and what I'm hearing from you is taking a higher level view, doing exploration, and then having that subcommittee or ad hoc committee bring that information back after working with staff, not with the consultant, but working with staff, to see what is the pulse of the council for potential next steps. And it seems like we have enough council members here. I don't know about you, Madison, but I know that Terry and Frank had said, I'm okay with moving forward with the ad hoc committee.
Oh, I'm okay with you moving
Okay.
forward. I'm just saying if this is going down a path of we want to hire a consultant, if that's like where you think this is going to come back around from the subcommittee, I'm probably going to be a hard pass on that.
So would I.
With all these other loops that we have open right now that we need our time and attention right now.
We have a consultant right now we're paying for. And that's, I'm suggesting.
This is a totally different scope of work.
And I'm suggesting that maybe that's not in our best interest.
What's not in our best interest?
To keep
current
going
scope
down
of
the
work.
path of just Bank of America.
Yeah. And that's why I said, I fear that this is going to come back around and we're going to say, oh, wait, we
Good
should
cities
not be
needs-
planning Bank of America because there's all this, we really need this to be one holistic project. And I mean, I'm not going to say it all again. You all heard it.
Yeah, no,
So-
absolutely. And who knows what the direction from the ad hoc committee will be? It could be very well what you're just saying, right? But then it will be backed up with a staff report that we
So-
don't have.
So if
I
I
may.
may interrupt, just
Sure.
one real quick question, quick thought. So currently with our zoning, if it's zoned for housing, there's by right zoning. And it is something that we have very little say or input on. With the project that was presented to us earlier today, that is not zoned for housing. And if they were to come in and want to build housing, they would have to get buy-in from the city, and we would have a say on what gets built. If we make all of Parkside 2 a zoning overlay with whatever's in it, then a developer can come in with no input to us and build it the way they want to. Again, with absolutely no input from us. If we have it where the zoning doesn't quite match what they're proposing, then they have to get buy-in from us. So for me, not having by right zoning makes a big difference on what we can actually weigh in on and what we like and what might serve Brisbane best. Now, that's a different way of looking at it, whereas we're gonna, vision it the way we ultimately want it, but that's how we ultimately want it in the here and now, in this actual moment. And 10 or 15 years down the road, that may not be when money comes in, or a willing person comes in, or the willing seller. It may not be what's good 10 or 15 years down the road. So why go into all the specifics of something? And if we have something that doesn't fit our cookie cutter zoning, it has to come to us. It has to get approved. It has to come through the people and have second looks put at it. It makes it a little bit more difficult for the developer. And maybe it makes it more difficult for the staff and for the people to get their head around it. But if they have it zoned, if that property was zoned for housing, it probably wouldn't be 20 units per acre, because I'm not sure 20 units per acre meets the housing codes anymore. And if it was done as housing, they'd be able to tear that building down and just start building, and the bulldozer would be there before anybody knew. So there's a issue with having too many specifics already in a plan compared to not having the specifics on the plan.
Yeah, and those are really good points, Terry. And that's where I think the ad hoc committee can take these, take this input and work with staff. And then when it does come back to the council, those areas will be addressed. And if they're not, right, we'll get deep into the weeds about it like we usually do. So, yeah, I don't think so. Yeah.
I'm just going to repeat one thing that I think is really critical here, and that is a single measurable objective of this ad hoc committee. That I think it's important to have that.
And so what is that?
It's not my committee. I don't know. But
Yeah.
it's something that we all understand, and we can say, okay, this fits in with this does not fit in with this. I think there just needs to be an objective for the
Yes.
subcommittee.
That's why I kept being like, so what is the work? That's what is going to happen. Like, it feels, I don't know. Exploratory is just like not, I'm struggling with the specific, like I think there just needs to be
something more solid. I think it encompasses, again, looking at the area as if it was a blank slate. And then you look at what you put there. What would the economic opportunities be? What would the housing opportunities be? How well does that match what Brisbane has been talking about for years? Maybe talking to good cities, just what basic parameters did they use approaching Redwood City? Just to get an idea, how do you even approach something like this? Talking to staff, because John Swecky, we've got also a general plan that hasn't been updated since, 95? And some of the way that you do this is not just by zoning, it's also by general plan. And what are the areas in that plan that can change? And my goal is really about breaking this cycle of our reacting and being proactive. It's a different mindset. And I'm thinking of it in terms of, we have people want to put money into Brisbane. Let's work with them, but let's not just say, show me and I'll tell you if I like it, or, oh, I don't like that, let's change this. But really saying, we've explored something about this area, and here's potentially what we see that could be suitable.
I think you guys should meet with Prologis and you should meet with the family that owns the village.
Absolutely.
And
I mean, that would be part of exploratory. I mean, there's lots of avenues. I'm sorry I didn't make a list, a whole enumeration of what that exploration would be, because I can think of some off the top of my head, but I'm a researcher. Once I get into it, I'll bet there's double or triple what I'm thinking about. And we don't pay a dime for my time in terms of compared to a consultant. So I'm just looking for ideas and possibilities to bring back and say, have we ever considered this? And I just don't think that for something to succeed, it's got to be what people want. And I don't think we've matched that. And we're a different community than we were 15, 20 years ago in many ways. Some very good. Some you could say, well, whatever. But if we had had this conversation 20 years ago, it would be, oh my God, we don't want any development. Well, I'm not even suggesting big developments. I'm saying the developments are going to happen. So let's be on the front end and think about an idea of what we want the area to look like.
You know, if I could maybe answer your question, Frank, and just from not from your perspective, Colleen, but you know, it's taking a 2025, 2026 evaluation of the part of Parkside that was not zoned, and then looking at if we could apply different zoning, what would that look like, right? That creates a better use than warehouses across the street from the park. And so that's all that it is. And then you bring it back to the council and you go, yes or no, or oh, we like some of these things, go back and do some more research. But that's really, that's the simpleness of it. We already have a process that we started. We haven't zoned that particular part. Maybe we don't. Maybe we just leave it. We haven't done a rezoning or
Yeah, you would have to you'd have to consider different uses, right, than just commercial. Are we just talking about, and this is what I'm trying to get clear, are we talking about the Village, Bank of America, the Village, and the former Calster's vacant lot? And is that the 3 parcels that we're talking about? Or you're looking at, you want to look at the whole thing?
No, just the well, for me, it just makes sense that we look at the warehouses that front the park. And are warehouses an appropriate type of building across the street from the park?
So
Is there a
SFO
better
apparel?
use?
SFO apparel, is that what you're saying? Because an heirloom?
Sure.
Okay. So, but aren't those included?
The maps on the
They
second
have
page.
townhomes there right now.
That was the first Parkside the one the developer that we didn't like.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Where's our final? What page is our final?
I don't know. We're getting into the weeds.
Yeah. So, I mean, are we good, you know, giving direction to form the ad hoc committee? And if so, I mean, obviously, Councilmember Mackin has to be on it because she's the one that is super passionate about it.
I think one question we need to ask is what kind of staff outlay does staff have time to do this?
I think the candid response is we don't know yet. I think early staff support, I think we've got some time. But to the points that have been made by the council this evening, there's a variety of projects that staff is working on in the next year that are priority projects. And we do have, you know, other things that are going to go on that will affect the department in the next year. So I would hope that the ad hoc subcommittee would be receptive to comments from the city manager related to staff and resource allocation.
So, yeah, so with that, I would like to serve with you, Councilmember Mackin, unless there's another council member that would want to do so. Okay, great. So staff has the direction they need. Thank you very much. Okay. So moving on to countywide assignments and subcommittee reports. Anyone want to report out on a countywide assignment?
Nope.
No? Anyone on this side?
No, I actually don't, for the first time in a long time.
There you go. Nothing wrong with that. You know, we had some subcommittee meetings and we have some upcoming subcommittee meetings. Anybody want to propose something to discuss? Nope. Okay, written communications. Madam Clerk.
Correspondences was received from Isabella Brown, Shape the Future of Our Shorelines, join us in Pacifica. And Jackie, thank you and congratulations to Fresno County from In God We Trust America.
All right, thank you very much. All right, oral communications number 2. Ms. Salmon, you have the mic.
Wow, that was a really interesting discussion, and I see both sides of it. And I was here when they built the village, but it brought up a lot of things. And you mentioned within the parameters, and I think what the subcommittee wants to do is set parameters. And some of the most important parameters we could set in that area is height, because you talk about our $1 million views. And I'm concerned about height. Obviously, I came to ask that question because of the other project. So good luck. But one of the things that I do want to mention is the poor condition of the village. I was there it's a safety issue at this point. Those benches either need to be removed or repaired. Somebody is going to get hurt on those little benches that go from where Ichika is over to where the coffee shop is. They are not able to be sat on, and yet they look like they could be, especially if it's dark or somebody's been drinking. It is a bad situation. And they have taken that used to be a really viable...
A fountain.
Huh?
It used to be a fountain, right?
There's a fountain and there's 2 built-in benches that are dangerous, really dangerous. And as you talk about, well, it's their property, but as the city, it's blighted. It's blighted. They have areas that are blighted, and we should be able to step in and correct that or fine them for that. And it's really very awful. That village used to be really quite vibrant. There was fashion brands, always had people there. There was a vegetable market for a while. There was
Manjari.
There was, and now it seems like really the viable businesses are like Ichika, sushi, and the hot pot.
Pro nails.
And pro nails. Mm-hmm. Huh?
Dentist.
The dentist. The coffee shop still seems pretty viable. And we go to Subway once in a while. And the laundromat.
And Lloyd. And Lloyd has.
And Lloyd's, but when she's there. But, they've written the property owner has just made it impossible for a lot of the businesses to survive there. And so I think the city kind of needs to put a little pressure on them about the blightedness of the property that they own. And it was not supposed to be this ugly thing when they built it. There was a lot of controversy over it, and everybody says it's facing the wrong way, but it was facing the town because it was supposed to be part of the town, and that's when we were going to build a city hall where the park is. So that all changed. Also, one of the things that's important when we talk about all these different developments, it's really hard because there are underlying conditions that need to be taken into account. That used to be the bay, and it's deep water, okay? And so when we talk about height and limitations and different things like that, it's a complex issue. And so we can draw all the pretty pictures we want, just like we did out at the marina, but we really have to face the issues that are coming on us before we can make all the pretty stuff. So good luck, guys. I really appreciate all the work that you guys do.
Thank you, Michelle. All right, Carrie, you've been hanging out with us. We should have, I think we need to
She
get a
got her fill of
popcorn machine
nightly
there,
entertainment.
The foray there, yeah. So. Anybody online? Nope. Okay, great. Then we will adjourn tonight's meeting at 8:34. Thank you, everyone.